All right, we're going to get started, everyone. Welcome to our last panel of the day, which is called Lifting Up AAPI Voices in the Arts and Entertainment. So as we explore the theme of AAPI representation and leadership, we'd like to take a look at how this plays out in different industries beyond government, such as Hollywood. Our next panel will focus on lifting up diversity in entertainment, and I'd like to introduce our facilitator of the panel, someone who I personally admire a great deal, Traci Lee. She is the Digital Editorial Manager for NBC Asian America. Does anyone read NBC Asian America? Awesome. She oversees the country's first national news source dedicated to producing content about, for, and by Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. She's been a vocal advocate for increasing diversity and representation in the media and is committed to the education, recruitment, and mentorship of APIs in an effort to increase diversity in the workplace. So I'll pass it over to Traci. Thanks so much.
Working? Hello? Ooh.
Check. Oh.
Hello, everyone.
How are you?
Hello. Thank you all for joining us here for the White House AAPI Youth Summit here at Google in DC, and everyone watching on the live stream. Hello. I don't know where I'm waving, but
Where are we waving for the?
yeah, where should we wave?
I think that.
Hello.
That thing. Is that
Welcome
it?
to the live stream.
Hello.
As Rebecca said, thank you so much for the lovely introduction. I'm Traci. I'm the managing editor of NBC Asian America. And joining me for this conversation about representation in media and Hollywood, lifting up AAPI voices on the screens that we all watch, is Ross Butler, who most of you know from his most recent role as Zach Dempsey in Netflix's 13 Reasons Why. And joining us by Google Hangout from California, I believe Los Angeles.
Yes, hello, hi. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Hi.
Is Sujata Day, who most of you know from HBO's Insecure, and of course her short film Cowboy and Indian, which we'll talk about, has been doing amazing on the film festival circuit. So thank you for joining us, Sujata.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about some of the broader questions about diversity in Hollywood, which I feel we have this conversation a lot every year, but we get to sit down with real live actors and actresses to get their perspectives. So Ross, when it comes to the roles that you audition for, you've said in the past that you don't like to be pigeonholed into a type of, any sort of stereotype. I don't think anyone enjoys that. How do you choose the roles that you go out for?
So a big thing for me is that I do not want to play a stereotype. You know, I'm sure we all have heard the stereotypical jokes about the Asians are the nerds and the geeks and the overachievers, which, well, we do overachieve a little bit, but, you know, that's a good thing. But for me, it's just I never wanted to be the nerd. I didn't want to be the tech geek that Hollywood and society had pretty much set me to be. So yeah, that's probably the first thing, because I think playing stereotypes doesn't do our community service. I think we are much more complex than just, you know, the people that society deems that we are. So yeah, that would be the first thing for me, is just don't play stereotype, don't feed into this image of this Asian American male or female. Yeah, and then I just kind of look for just complex characters, even though, yeah, I'd play a lot of jocks, I get it. Yeah, I think that's just, I come, but yeah, if a jock has a heart, that's more appealing than just a jerk jock, yeah. So, yeah, that's what I look for.
Do you play sports? Are you actually a jock?
Okay, can you guys guess what sport I actually play? It's a little stereotypical. There you go.
Everyone's like tennis.
Tennis and piano, but, you know, represent. It's not violin, at least, okay? Or badminton, but, you know, it's cool. I get it.
No offense to all the badminton players.
No, it's a very intense
awesome.
Sport. Tennis is very intense. A lot of people don't know that. But yeah, I get to play the non-stereotypical sports, basketball, football. On TV, I play many more sports than I do in real life. So it's okay.
Sujata, how about you? When you're auditioning for roles, even when you're writing roles for yourself, how do you choose not only the roles you want to go out for, but the team that you're working with, for instance, on your short film?
I think I'm in a kind of lucky position in that being a part of Awkward Black Girls 6 years ago really just inspired me and the entire team of that web series to just get out there and write our own roles, because the things that we were auditioning for were, especially for someone who's brown, I was auditioning to play like wife, and I was having to do an Indian accent, and I was really lucky in that Issa Rae just saw me as a regular American person and cast me as her best friend in Awkward Black Girl, and we were all out of that show really inspired to write our own work and put it out there. And I think that's the most important thing that is in this industry, you know, just like write your own stuff, put yourself in it, write the role that you want to play, and then you'll stop being typecast.
What kind of advice would you give to people who want to write their own roles? Or maybe just, you know, they themselves have gotten, I don't want to say fed up, but tired of seeing those stereotypes. What kind of advice would you give to a young aspiring writer?
I would say we have so much technology at our fingertips right now. There's no excuse to not write your own personal story. It should just come from, your first story should just be about who you are, where you're coming from. There's a specific, amazing story that you have inside of you that we're all dying to see. And now it's just so easy to take your phone and shoot it. And, you know, my friends and I, we just started with that. We just started putting our sketches online, and it just kind of blew up and got the attention of Hollywood just because they were like, where are these views coming from? Who is watching this? And why aren't we getting this views to network television? So I would say just, you know, write a script that's based on your personal experience, and, you know, maybe have some originality in there with like what kind of story do I have to tell? What am I doing in this town that I live in, whether it be DC or the middle of Alabama or Canada or wherever you live, and just take your phone and shoot it. And
that's awesome advice. And, you know, you're talking about those kind of new formats of streaming. Of course, Ross, you're on a show that is a Netflix show. You had experience on networks, but being on a platform like Netflix, I'm sure it took a bit of a journey to get there. So let's back up a little bit and talk about your first audition and what experience, what that was like.
Yeah.
And then, of course, leading up to Netflix and how you transitioned into that.
Right. So one of my first auditions was when I first moved to LA. I was trying to do commercial acting, which is kind of the stepping stone to acting for scripted things. So I can't remember the brand, but I go in for this audition, and the description was everyday attractive American. I was like, cool, great. I'm gonna knock this out of the park. So I walk in, and you know, and it's this cold, dark room in LA, and I sign in, and I turn around, and there's like 30 to 40 other guys in the room, all of which were black and white. Like, there was not one other Asian guy in the room, and I kind of froze there. I was just like, am I in the right room right now? Is this is so I turned around and I checked the sign-in sheet, and I was in the right place. So I sat down and I kept, you know, eyeing the people next to me, and these guys were like real models. Like, you think I'm tall, these guys were like 6'6", you know, chiseled face. I'm like, yeah, this is everyday America, great. Fantastic. And I just got more and more anxious because I was just like, what am I doing here? This isn't right. So I actually got to the point where I stood up and I walked out. And I was freaking out. And my roommate had driven me to the audition, and he noticed I came out pretty quick, and he's like, so how did it go? I'm like, I killed it, man. you don't even know I killed it. And he's like, no, you didn't. I'm like, no, I didn't. And he's like, so what's happening? So I explained to him what I was feeling like, and I just felt like I didn't belong. And I felt like I was out of place, and I felt like all these other guys, these were real Americans. And I was just this, you know, this weird, awkward kid that wasn't supposed to be there. And he said, no, dude, you were raised in America. You are an American. People want to see that. They want to see this side of America that's not just, you know, white guys and black guys. So I went back in, didn't book it, but I felt more confident that, yes, I actually went in, and yes, that I deserve to be American just as much as these guys. I was born in another country, but I was raised here. So that is kind of what planted the seed of where I want to go in my career, is to represent America how it really is. Because, yes, you know, we deserve to be Americans just as much as any other minority or majority group. We need to be represented. So, and then a few years later, yes, now Netflix, where they're much more embracing, I didn't feel as awkward be like, yeah. So yeah.
In your work, whether it's the roles that you've personally booked or that you just see Asian Americans facing in movies, television, commercials, what do you think is the biggest challenge for Asian American actors, actresses, directors in Hollywood right now?
I would say in the past few years, we've been doing a lot better in Hollywood, but before that, the biggest thing was being able to walk into a room and not be stereotyped right off the bat. Again, the reason I told my reps back in like a few years ago not to send me out for Asian roles is because all Asian roles were written as stereotypes. So that was the big thing. Also, just our cultural, because as much as many of you know, Asian parents can be.
Watch out, your mom might be watching this.
Yeah, Mom, are you watching this right now? I'm gonna get like a call from her. Like, what are you doing? We know that they love us a lot. They care about us and our careers and everything in our life. So that also is a big hump to get into the industry. But yeah, that is a big thing, is feeling to meet the expectations of our parents, just to fight for representation where we're not represented. I think those put together is a pretty uphill battle, but.
And Sujata, how about you? What do you think the biggest challenge facing Asian Americans, whether it is in writing, and you've written, directed, and of course acted in many projects, what do you think the biggest challenge facing Asian Americans in Hollywood is?
I think I'll just piggyback on what Ross said, because things are getting better for what's happening right now, and people are more open to casting Asian Americans in lead roles, which is really exciting. Definitely a couple years ago, pilot season, to be honest, it's one of those things where there can only be one ethnic person in a show. So I think that is something that we still need to get over. And it's something that I believe they tackled in Master of None season 1, where they were like, they're not going to cast 2 Indian guys on one show. But in Master of None, they had 2 Indian guys on one show, and it was done really well, and it was successful. And I believe that if we can just keep writing our own stories, like I'll say right now that I'm pitching 3 different shows, and networks are so welcoming me with open arms, because they are hungry for these stories and they're dying to put them out there, just with the success of everything that's been happening right now with Fresh Off the Boat, with Master of None, with even Justin Chan's film Gook. There are just open doors everywhere. So it's a really exciting time to be in Hollywood right at this moment.
With Cowboy and Indian, did you have trouble kind of pitching that concept to people? I mean, this is something you wrote, directed, and starred in. Did you have trouble kind of getting that across to, if you needed financiers, you know, I mean, anyone who might needed to have been pitched that film?
I actually didn't pitch it to anybody. I used to work at a firm called Accenture, which many of you may. And I had my taxes last year, and I got this weird tax form, and I was like, I have stock from Accenture? And I called them, and I was like, how much is this stock? And they were like, oh, it's $5,500. And I was like, whoa, send me that check. Because I had this script, and I was like, I'm going to use the $5,500 to fund it and just make it myself. And of course, the person on the other line was like, we don't recommend you cashing out the stock. And I was like, just send me the check, please. This is what I want to do. So I didn't pitch it to anyone. I always knew that it wasn't going to be something that someone else was going to fund. So it was really lucky that I just had this kind of random amount of stock money that I didn't know I had. And I used all of that to produce the film, put everything together. And it was a really empowering process. Just writing it and producing it and directing it and basically having full control over everything. So I didn't go into any rooms trying to pitch that to anyone, because I just wanted to have something that I directed on my reel. And I was also like, I don't even care how this turns out. If it turns out shitty, then so be it. It'll be my first time directing, and that's what happens. But it actually came out pretty good, and I'm excited about it. So I would just tell people to take a risk and go for it. And I mean, maybe not with $5,500, but maybe with a little bit of money that you might have.
So check to see if you guys have stocks anywhere.
Yeah, I'm going to check to see what stocks I got. Damn,
Right,
I'm going to
that's
email
the
my
tip
business
right
manager right now. Damn.
Ross,
Also, my parents don't know that story, so they probably.
It's all off the record,
watching
guys,
it right now.
Yeah, this is all, what happens in this room stays in this room, right? All right.
And the live feed. And
in the live feed.
but that doesn't matter.
Ross, have you ever thought about writing or producing your own stories?
Oh, I've thought about it, and I have, and there's a good reason why there's not a movie directed by me or written by me. Writing, didn't take much creative writing when I was in school. It was a lot of essays, so it's a little mechanical. No, I don't have, I guess, the confidence nor the stocks and Accenture to do that sort of thing. One day.
One of these days. You know, in this conversation that we have, Sujata just talked about pitching and going in rooms and pitching, getting people to recognize Asian American faces. It feels like we have this conversation every year about the need for more representation, and then yet every year we see these little things happening, whitewashing, jokes made about Asian people at their expenses. What do you feel like we haven't talked about yet? What's missing from that conversation to really make change?
Right. So, and this is just my opinion on the thing. Is you know, we all know what happened with Ghost in the Shell, Dragon Ball Z, and you know, that's just kind of like, but you know, I think in the Asian American acting community or just entertainment industry, we're fighting a battle on two fronts, and that is for Asian actors to be playing Asian roles, which should be a given, right? But then also Asians playing non-Asian roles. And just American roles, and that's the latter of those two is kind of what I'm focusing on and what I want to bring to the community, so that we can focus more on that. Is like, where is the Asian Ryan Gosling or the Asian Scarlett Johansson? Like, we don't have those. We don't have the Asian actors that just play the cops fresh out of the police academy. So I think that, for me, especially on my end, is the focus is having just Asian people representing American people. And because that's what we are. There's a bunch of Asian American people in here, and we all have our own Asian American stories to tell. I don't think we should just be pigeonholed into playing cybernetic robots that are really good at martial arts, or I guess I can't even, or Goku, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean that's just my perspective. I think it's like every other actor in the Asian community has their own path, but for me, it's just representing who I am, and that's just I'm an American who happens to have Asian heritage. So,
what's the kind of story you want to see out there of, you know, an Asian American leading man? Like, what's the narrative? What's the character that you want to see? I
think just anything. I just want to be in a remaking of The Notebook with Emma Stone, across Emma Stone, so we can just do that one scene because I love Emma Stone. No, please, Emma Stone, if you're watching this, I love you. No, but there is some seriousness to that though. I think just like romantic comedy, maybe not. Is The Notebook a comedy? I haven't seen it. No, it's not. What's a romantic comedy? 50 First Dates with Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore. Anybody remember that one? Maybe not that either. Somewhere in between The Notebook and 50 First Dates. I want to find that middle ground of Adam Sandler and Ryan Gosling. No, just like just romantic comedies with just an Asian leading man, not necessarily paired up with an Asian leading woman. And because it happens, it's like, yeah, I've dated much to my mother's dismay, I have not only dated Asian women. Yeah, and just a real American story with an Asian guy or Asian woman leading. That's what we need.
Sujata, what do you think, just to back up to my earlier question to Ross, what do you think is missing from the conversation about diversity in Hollywood that kind of keeps us going back to the same problems that we run into?
I think what's happening is all the controversy is surrounding like the actors who are booking the roles, and they really don't have that much power in the industry. And we got to go back. We got to go back to where it all begins. We got to go back to who's writing the script, who is directing these films, who's producing these films. And right now, it's basically a whole bunch of old white men. So I think what's really important is just being aware. I know Ava DuVernay has even said that people need to be aware that there are other jobs in the entertainment industries besides the big ones that you hear about, like the producer, the director, the actor. There's you could be a composer, you could be you could do sound, you could be a gaffer, you could do lighting. And I think what's really important is to get diversity behind the scenes, and then it will show in front of the camera. So for example, I'm on Insecure, and their writer's room has one white male in it who's straight. And Issa just really went out there and said, I want a writer's room that's super diverse. And I think if more creators, if more showrunners go with that attitude, then we'll start to see the whitewashing start to go away in front of the camera. So change has to start behind the camera.
Yeah.
Number one.
And I do want to jump on something about what you just said. And this is for you guys, because I don't know how many people in here necessarily want to be in the entertainment industry. I mean, you guys all look very diverse and are beautiful people. And I admire you guys because I think you guys are doing much better in your lives than I was doing when I was at your age. But being in the creative industry doesn't mean that you have to be an actor or a writer or director. There's so many careers in entertainment. There's entertainment lawyers, there's entertainment financiers. There's so many paths you can take, and don't feel like going into a creative career means that you have to cut off your parents from your life forever. There is so many pathways, and embrace your creative side, because I think some of the most successful people in this world are very creative. So embrace like the arts in your life, because and don't be afraid to explore that side of you, because I think it's very important, and we need more creative Asian Americans. And you know, feeling like playing classical violin, I wouldn't really count that as creative if your parents are forcing you to do it. Really find something creative that you enjoy, and then try to find a medium between that and whatever career you're going to. Because I stepped in for like 5 minutes in the speak right before this, and one of the women were talking about going to law school and how you don't need to be a lawyer when you go to law school, but it trains your mind to be analytic. I think having a creative hobby or something that you can express yourself doesn't mean you have to be a creative. You have to have a creative career, but it trains your mind to express yourself in different ways or think in different ways. And yeah, I think that's what we all really need, especially in our community, because we are seen as very straight-laced academics. So just branch out, guys. It's just like find something that you want, whether it's drawing, piano, doesn't have to be classical. You can play jazz. I play jazz a little bit, rebel a little bit. Yeah, just find something, an outlet.
And I'll just piggyback on what Ross said right now. So
you can only piggyback once, Sujata. I'm cutting you off. You can't double piggyback.
So I don't know if many of you know this, but I have an engineering degree. So how I've kind of meshed both of my analytical mind with my creative mind is that I've written a script that I'm pitching around right now, and it's about 3 girls that work in a tech consulting firm. And so I've been able to use the experiences that I've been through and put it into my Hollywood experience as well. So it's kind of great. Hollywood people love when you're not kind of just doing one thing, when you just don't go to drama school. They love hearing about different experiences, and they're like, oh my gosh, we can turn that into a show. So that's something really fun that you could think about.
You stole the words right out of my mouth, because I was going to bring up your background as well as Ross. You originally went to school for engineering, right?
Woo, woo. I saw you raise your hand. Yeah.
How did you turn, because I know that you did not finish.
No, I did not.
Your engineering degree. Nope. And then the advice you graders gave, but you know, for so many people in here, and myself included, how do you have that conversation with your parents? How did you have that conversation with your mom?
Yes, I did have that. Well, I mean, so the thing is, I decided to move out on I moved to California on a Friday, and I decided that Tuesday I was going to move out. And you know, I'm from Northern Virginia, so I did a cross country. Not a lot of talking happened between my mom, but it's like I just said, we need to start convincing our parents that creative paths isn't a death sentence. It doesn't mean we're going to be forever alone because we want to read a play or two, you know. So yeah, it can be hard, and I understand that. But that doesn't mean you need to creatively castrate yourselves. You know, I went to engineering school, and I found it very unfulfilling for me. Props to you if you love it, stick with it, because I was really risky for about 2 or 3 years after I dropped out. But yeah, you know, just be honest with your parents, and just like if there's something creative you like to do, just tell them. And you never know, maybe they'll support it. And there was something else I was going to say, but I can't remember. Maybe I should have worked on my memory in school a little bit. I mean, as an
I'll
actor,
let you think
my
about
memory,
that so I can ask Sujata, how did you have that conversation with your parents? Like, is it a, you know, I'm going to be an actor now, I'm going to be a writer?
What's interesting is that I've always been a writer. So even from when I was in like middle school, I was always writing short stories. And then when I went to college, I obviously was doing my engineering classes. But then I was taking screenwriting and playwriting and also acting in the musicals and doing all the plays. So I was always like half and half. And then when I moved out to LA, Accenture moved me out. Yay. It was all part of the grand plan. And so my parents were like, cool, you're moving to LA, you're going to work for Accenture, you're making lots of money, you're doing great. A year later, I got laid off, and I like wanted that to happen secretly. So it was kind of a really easy transition for me, where I had planned it out like, okay, I got laid off, I'm getting severance, I'm getting unemployment. I had a commercial agent. I started booking commercials kind of luckily right away. And then the first conversation I had my commercial check in my hand to be like, okay, look, like I can take care of myself. And so this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And they've been really supportive since then. And I think what has helped is the Cal Penns of the world helped. M. Night Shyamalan, they had this idea where like Bollywood is super scandalous and everyone's sleeping with each other, and they kind of thought Hollywood was the same way. But they were seeing the couple Indian actors and directors coming out, and they'd be like, okay, this is okay, and you're making money for yourself, and you can like pay for your rent and get food, so you're gonna be fine.
I remember what I was going to say.
Yes, go for it.
Let's talk about that Asian work ethic. Yeah, that will serve you in every aspect of life. That is one thing that I think my mom to this day is, because you think actors, they can just put on makeup and stand in front of a camera and say some lines. No, any career you're going to, acting included, work ethic is so important, and that is something that it's culturally instilled in us. That this is just my Asian pride moment. That be proud of it. Work ethic. Our parents are doing good in that department. That's all I wanted to say. Thanks, Mom.
In choosing the roles that you pursue, you know, we talked a little bit about writing your own roles, of course, the kinds of roles you want to look for. Have you ever walked out of an audition thinking like, that's not the role that I want, whether it's because they've asked you to do an accent or you just felt like that's not me? If either of you want to.
Yeah, I did one audition where I had to do an Asian accent, and it just wasn't me. I was like, there are much better people at this than I am, and it was like a sitcom Asian accent, and I was just like, guys, do you guys know that Russell Peters stand-up? You guys know Russell Peters, where he talks about like the selling the bag for 50 cents less, and like that was my study material for this audition, and it was horrible. But yeah, not only did I feel not great with my accent, I also just felt like I wasn't being myself, and I'm glad that I don't have to do that anymore, and that's what I'll say about that.
Sujata, how about you?
I think I've been lucky because ever since Awkward Black Girl, I haven't had to go in for any really stereotypical auditions that are awful, and I've been going in for just the friend, the lead, the normal American person. But I do feel like it's different for if you're just starting out in the industry and you're gonna have to go in and kind of make those decisions for yourself in terms of, okay, am I okay going in role as a kind of AAPI Indian character, and you just have to make that decision for yourself. Obviously, if you have no money and that part might be a stepping stone to something else, I would say go for it, do it. But I'm definitely in a lucky spot right now where I haven't had an audition like that in like 6 years, I would have to say.
And of course, you mentioned, of course, what a great collaborator and producer Issa is to have created, you know, these roles that are dynamic and interesting. What kind of opportunities do you think that's opened up, not just for, you know, the roles that you've been able to do, but everyone around you? And also, what kind of challenges do you think that you as a group, a cast, continue to face?
I think the success of one of us leads to the success of everyone else. And I'm so thankful for Issa and what she has done for not only just the people in her crew, but the other ethnicities in Hollywood as well. I think she is normalizing the Black woman experience on Insecure. And sometimes that is the biggest form of resistance. It's just like, she doesn't want to play the sassy Black woman who can dance. And that's the kind of the classic Black sitcom character. And so that has created and inspired so many kind of copycats and some of rising above the others. And I think the more work that's out there that is normalizing the Black experience, the Asian American experience, the Latino experience. I was just reading an article the other day. My friend Traci wrote the movie Girls Trip, which is doing really well over the past 2 weeks. And in the article, it was a white man saying, you know what, if this sparks a Latina Girls Trip or like the Asian version of Girls Trip, then I will go see every version of this movie with these different ethnicities. And of course that gave me the idea. I was like, well, I got to write the Asian Girls Trip, so.
Leave that to me, Sujata. I'll write the Asian Girls Trip movie.
Ross will write it for you.
If anybody knows the Asian American woman experience, it's me.
I'd watch that. I would watch that.
Thank you. I would too.
You know, it's interesting you say that, and there's all these studies that always say that diversity sells at, you know, it makes money in the box office. It's what people want to see. And yet sometimes you get those reports every year that say there's, you know, less than half of films are made by women, or less than, you know, the top box office ones, that is, or less. It seems like there are almost less opportunities. Do you find that there are less opportunities, or do you think that they're just not being promoted in the media enough? That there are people out there who are diverse actors, diverse producers, directors? A question for either of you.
Yeah, I think Sujata and I, we both have seen a definite increase in opportunities for Asian actors, writers, producers. It's increasing, but it's not where we want it to be. But I think we are moving in the right direction. It's I see some hope in that. I don't know how Sujata feels. Our experiences are, I think, a little different. But yeah, for me, I definitely see more opportunities.
How about you, Sujata?
So I will say that in terms of traditional Hollywood studios, they have movies in the pipeline already that have pipelined for 3 to 5 years. So now they're just having to churn them out and put them out. And I don't think this discussion was happening 5 years ago. So you're still seeing kind of the white male movies coming out right now. But I will say that that is completely changing in terms of the digital experiences. Like when I say that I've been pitching networks, I've also been pitching digital networks. Like Vimeo is making shows, and YouTube Red obviously is making shows, and there are so many other avenues right now that are content. And if we're just talking about the traditional studio Hollywood system, it is changing very slowly. But if we're talking about all the other opportunities that are out there, I think that those are where our voices are going to be heard the most and the loudest. And a great example of that is something like Awkward Black Girl that came out on YouTube and really made a splash.
What kind of media, Sujata, would you recommend people, like whether it's stuff that they've seen, or what kind of things would you recommend people check out or watch, you know, consume as part of their daily habit?
Oh my, there's so much good stuff out right now. It's pretty crazy. I would say
Insecure on HBO.
There's a web series on ABC Digital called American Coco that just came out. A couple of my friends are involved with that. And I can't think of anything.
I love that there's so much media that you could probably point to because of digital networks, right?
Yeah, it's just like so much good stuff. I know that YouTube Red they have a Harry Shum show called Single by 30. YouTube has always been really supportive of Asian American voices, especially just because of, you know, the guys from Yom Yom F, and so many of the YouTube influencers are Asian Americans. that they are developing content with their already established influencers. So that YouTube Red is always a great place to check out content. Yeah, it's just like all over the internet. There's some good stuff everywhere. Obviously, like Hulu and Amazon and Netflix are on the verge of really great, diverse content. And then a lot of the studios do have a digital arm, so even checking out their content would be great.
I like the plug for YouTube Red here at Google headquarters in Washington, D.C.
Oh, that's right. Yes,
you should all check out YouTube Red, which is great.
Hey, YouTube Red, give me a shout.
Ross, how about you? What kinds of things are you consuming, or would you recommend people consume as well?
YouTube. No advertisements if you sign up for YouTube Red. No.
This is just a YouTube Red commercial.
Yeah, this is an extended YouTube commercial. You know, I this is going to sound so bad, but I've been watching, and again, this isn't like an Asian American thing, or it might be a little bit. I've been watching a lot of Crunchyroll. I'm sorry, it's just, I'm in like an anime hole right now, because I didn't really watch anything other than Cowboy Bebop growing up, and now I'm like, what is this? I didn't realize this whole universe existed. So that, but as far as like recommending things, I don't know. I like sit in my apartment near San Fran because we're shooting season 2, and a lot of Game of Thrones, a lot of Rick and Morty, and yeah. But as far as to help the community,
all of those things help the community.
Yeah, come on, Game of Thrones, come on. Wow, who doesn't relate to Game of Thrones? Let's be honest. Well, I mean, we could use some more Asian Americans in that. Just hinting. If you're gonna put Ed Sheeran in there, come on, let's. Anyway, yeah, Wong Fu has always been great. Like, those are people that I've wanted to work for a while. They've been repping us pretty strong, and yeah, I'd say just watch things, and then things that you can relate to, and then support content producers of things that you like. And it doesn't necessarily have to be Asian American. Just support the community of original content producers, so that, you know, so other Asian parents can be like, oh, you want to make YouTube videos? Can you make money off of that? You say, actually, yes, you can. Yeah, and just support that community. And just support what you like. Do Rick and Morty forever. Yeah.
If you guys have any anime recommendations, you can tweet them at Ross.
Oh, I've gotten Attack on Titan. I've gotten Death Note. I just watched Hunter x Hunter. Anybody hear that? That was something. I got sucked into that. There was like 3 days where I didn't leave my apartment, and yeah.
Or if you have recommendations for things that Ross can do outside of his apartment, tweet those.
Yes,
as well.
Any life recommendations? Going to college, I've heard enough from my mom, but everything else I'm open to.
I want to ask for the both of you, and Ross, I'll start with you. Is there someone out there who's like a dream collaborator, whether it's an acting colleague, a director, a writer, somebody you really want to work with?
Besides Emma Stone, there's not a lot, no. Actually, so Martin Scorsese, you know, of course, that's like such an obvious thing, but what is so important to me is that he makes like such American films. Like, I just watched Gangs of New York a week ago, and it's like kind of, you know, stands the test of time. And to work with such like an American director, I mean, I know Italian American, I think that is, that would be like the next step for me, and I would be starstruck every day on set with him. But I think that's like the next step in kind of incorporating Asian Americans into American culture, because if that happens, then yeah, I mean, you guys are smart people. You know what the next step is like making an American movie with an American director. That's the dream. Yeah, and then again, Rachel McAdams would be great too. I love her and Emma Stone. Yeah, that'd be.
We're already writing the movie right here.
I'm working on
YouTube
this is the
Red.
Asian Girls Trip. Yeah.
On YouTube Red. Sujata, how about you? Dream collaborator out there?
Oh my gosh, I have a list of dream collaborators. I think I've been really lucky in that some of the episodes that we've shot of Insecure, I've been working with some dream collaborators. Debbie Allen directed one of our episodes, and she was a joy. And then Tina Mabry, who has done some incredible like Sundance movies, she was another director, and she was amazing. Melina Matsoukas, obviously, directs the majority of the episodes of Insecure, and she came from like Beyonce and Rihanna videos, so that was really exciting. She's just pretty much the coolest chick on the set. Outside of people I haven't worked with yet, I would love to work with Ava DuVernay. I think she's amazing. And then in terms of Indian American women directors that I really would love to work with is Gurinder Chadha, who did Bend It Like Beckham, which is like one of my greatest inspirations for acting and writing and all of it. I would love to work with her. There's Mira Nair, who did Monsoon Wedding. And then Nisha Ganatra is in another one of those kind of inspirational directors who's about to really blow up. And I would love to work with her as well.
So I'm going to go rogue here and take 2 questions from the audience, maybe 3. If anyone has a question, you in the front row right here.
Thanks. Wow, okay. I was just wondering, first off, big fans of everyone in the room, but what is your opinion on casting ethnically specific roles? I remember when they were casting Crazy Rich Asians, Jamie Chung sort of spoke out about she felt quote unquote discriminated against because she was Korean American. And then just second question, if you guys watch Insecure, are you Team Issa or Team Lawrence? And that's it.
Sujata, you want to go?
Sure. I'll definitely answer the Insecure question. I gotta say I'm Team Issa, but there's a big but, because Lawrence, who Jay Ellis plays Lawrence, and Tasha, who is played by Dominique, they're both like lovely people. So in real life, I'm just team everyone on Insecure because everyone's such a joy to work with. But on the show, I just have to be Team Issa. In terms of the casting situation, I don't know the story with Jamie Chung, but I will say that when I write my scripts, I make them very racially specific. Like even if like there's just like a normal American role in there, I'll be like, okay, this is supposed to be an Asian male, but it's not like a stereotype, just because I know that the go-to for if you don't put a race in there, they're gonna think white. So I'm always like, no, I want this script to be very racially diverse, and this is not a stereotypical character that I'm writing, but it should be an Asian male or it should be a Black female. So that's how I deal with just ethnicities in my projects.
Yeah, I would say on the topic of Jamie Chung, I'm kind of torn on the subject because I think as far as like white actors, we have British people playing Americans and we have like New Englanders playing Southerners. We're all over the map on that. And as far as like for Crazy Rich Asians, I think a lot of that stems also because as far as I know, what I've experienced, a lot of people in the Asian community, especially in Asia, are very particular about Chinese being played by Chinese and Japanese being played by Japanese. And I think that is something that it's great to be patriotic, but I think it is a part of Asian culture that we need to start fixing and like to not have these interracial battles. So, but as far as the casting, I am torn on the subject because I can understand if this is a movie about a Chinese family that producers and directors would be a little hesitant to consider someone who's Korean, but I do understand both sides, and but I think the overlaying thought that I have is yes, within our Asian communities, I think that is something that we shouldn't be having these interracial or racial is not the right word, but inter-country feuds. Okay, I know a lot of stuff happened in the past. But we can move beyond this. Yeah, I'd say that's half and half. I'm on the fence. Yeah.
I'm going to steal Sujata's Team Issa comment, mainly just because I want to just suck up to Issa Rae because I love her. And next question, I'll take from right here in the front.
So in terms of movies like The Forest, and I think there was a movie called The Great Wall, that have to do with taking things that are traditionally Asian and making them into things about white people. And even though white people have very little to do with these ideas, like, how can we as people who maybe aren't in the movie or maybe aren't anywhere near the movie, just watching or not watching the movie, how can we work to help take these things that are about Asian culture and Asian people and make them portrayed that way in film and that sort of thing?
Sujata, you want to go?
Yeah, Sujata, go ahead. We're playing musical mics there.
So everything, like I said, there is content out there right now that is really important to watch, to consume, to tweet about, to Facebook, to Instagram. So something like Justin Chan's movie that's coming out, I believe, very soon in August. It's an amazing film. It's called Gook. Go support. And if you're not in a city where it's playing, then talk about it on Twitter, tweet about it, Facebook it. What's really important is just supporting the work that is out there right now so that people in Hollywood can be like, oh, this is making a ton of money. Like what's happening right now with Girls Trip is they weren't gonna put money into a movie that stars 4 Black women, even though 3 of them are superstars. Because they thought there was no audience for it, but they're proving them wrong. And so that's what we have to keep doing. We have to prove the Hollywood kind of money people wrong, because money talks in this town. So it's just about buying the tickets, like go see Gook in the theater if you're able to do that. And watch stuff on Netflix and Hulu and Amazon that are important to our experiences, something like Master of None or 13 Reasons Why. Just support Fresh Off the Boat. Just shows that show our experiences.
Yeah, and there's 2 things Sujata said that I agree with completely. One, support content creators that are fit your vision, fit something that you like. And 2, something very important that, yes, Hollywood is all about, a lot of it's about money. And something like The Great Wall, I watched The Great Wall, and yes, it's a Chinese story, and Matt Damon, and the story behind that is like it was a production that was made between an American company and a Chinese company. So it wasn't being made to serve just China or just America. It was an attempt to bridge the gap between the two, and we needed people on both sides, actors on both sides, to represent themselves. And thankfully, I was really happy that the Chinese girl in the end was actually the one that saved the day.
Oh, spoiler alert.
Oh.
Anyone's going to go see The Great Wall. You didn't hear that.
There's a wall, and it's great. No. Yeah. Anyway, so it's already out. Whatever. If you saw the movie, great. If not, well, now you know. Go see it anyway. But yeah, it was an attempt to bridge the gap, and we are kind of meeting in a halfway. Because the Chinese market is the biggest market in the world, and kind of what I've been doing in my career is trying to bridge that gap as well. So I understand where they're coming from, but. And my only issue with having movies or content that is purely all Asian actors is that I think it does polarize things even more. I think what we should do in our entertainment is start to meld our cultures together rather than polarize. And even though, yes, it is a Chinese story, unfortunately, if you have all Asian actors or Chinese actors that are only known in China, it won't do as well in the US. And if it doesn't do well in the US, Hollywood doesn't want to make it. And that's just the way the industry works. So, so to answer your question, how you can be more vocal about it or what you can do about it is, yes, support the people, and then also just support the content that you want to support, but also try to, if you yourself don't want to get involved in the industry, just try to meet people or try to connect with people that are, or even go to Twitter and try to like just be more vocal about it. And because that's where we need to grow from. We need to grow from the seeds. And from there, we can start to have writers that will write more intercultural productions. So, yeah, I mean, that is an interesting question, because I know we have a lot of some productions that us as a community saw as disappointing, again, with the Dragon Ball and all of that stuff. So, yeah, it's just try to be vocal about it on social media and stuff like that. Support content. Woo.
Right. Yeah. I'm going to take one more question. You right there on the end in the second row. I'm putting, yeah. Yes, you.
I guess it's me. I was wondering, especially since there's so few like minority actors and like inspirations out there. Like I'm Latina and Asian, and it's just been like so hard to see like a lot of representation, and sometimes that's very disheartening for people who really want to get into the industry. I was wondering who were like your inspirations, if there were any mentors that you worked with that really helped you pursue your careers.
So for me, something that I brought up a lot is that when I was growing up, I didn't have really any Asian American male figures to look up to in entertainment. We had Jackie Chan and Jet Li, but that didn't represent who I was. I didn't practice kung fu, and I wasn't just an overall badass. So yeah, my mentors growing up were the people that I watched, like Tom Hanks and Leonardo DiCaprio, and I always felt this wall in between me and them because I didn't look like them. But kind of what I realized was that doesn't matter. Is like Tom Hanks is American, Leonardo DiCaprio is American, I'm American. Like I said before, there's no reason why we can't be those people. And we don't have to feel like we have to be Jackie Chan or Jet Li, even though I admire them greatly. So yeah, that's what I would say. I just had after I got over that hurdle of the appearance, I was like, these guys can be my role model just as much as any other person. So, yeah.
Sujata?
Yeah, some of my my number one mentor is Issa Rae. She's been so supportive of everything that I've written, everything that I've done since Awkward Black Girl. One of the shows that I'm pitching, she's actually an executive producer on it. So she is a huge, huge inspiration because I see her being successful in her own right, but really spreading the wealth and making sure that diverse voices of all races are being heard and being put into the right rooms to create discussions about new TV shows and movies and stuff. But just like growing up, it was just all the female kind of writer actors, like the Tina Fey, the Amy Poehlers of the world, who were just like writing their own stuff, but also acting in it. And they're just hysterical and they're just themselves. And so most of them are I just have them up on my vision board. You know, I don't really have a vision board, but if I did, they'd be up there.
Love that answer. Well, thank you both so much. If you want to follow Sujata and Ross on all of their social medias, you can, at Sujata Day and at Ross Butler. And of course, you can follow, I'm sure you already all are, the White House WIAPI. You can follow them at White House AAPI on Twitter and Instagram. And follow NBC Asian America, just because I have to plug that. Thank you all so much for spending the afternoon with us. Thank you, Ross, and thank you, Sujata. And
thank you so much, Traci. You're a great moderator.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Good. Rebecca, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you, guys. My three takeaways are cash out your stocks for an independent project. Let's support an Asian girls trip, and most importantly, follow your dreams, which I think all our panelists really exemplify that theme. So 3 things are gonna happen right now. Don't everyone jump on Ross right now. He's gonna stay for a little bit for photos right behind this wall, so we can have a very organized photo line for Ross. And then for those of you who are hungry, we have dinner on the right side. I know everyone's